that, there we go. Now we're recording. So Rich has already said that we have this month. So because it's National Sewing Month, we at Singer are going to do some fun things, but we're really going to concentrate, I guess, on like tips and techniques for this month. We're not going to do a lot of projects. So today, what I'm doing is I'm going to work on different ways to make seams for different projects. And then also, hopefully we'll have time to do some hems too. So just some basic hems, but also blind hems, twin needles, how you would use that as a hem as well. And then next week, I'm going to just be real quick. Next week, we're going to talk, I'm going to be back and we're going to talk about presser feet as different tools. The following week, Claire's going to join us with buttonholes and why you may have different buttonholes on your machines. Sometimes we sit there and we say, what's that for? And she's going to go through that. And then finally, Vanessa's going to join us on the last week of National Sewing Month. And she's going to do some things about just troubleshooting, how to make sure that you're getting a great stitch and a great seam. So I think that's it, everybody. I am again excited to be here, and I saw Florida, I saw North Carolina, I saw all sorts of places. So welcome. And I happen to be in Nashville, Tennessee. So what I want to start with first, I'm just going to move to a different camera, and this is, our handout is a little bit different this time because we just have different ideas. And so if you did not get the handout, we will put that in the chat. So don't worry, we'll get that in the chat for you. But really today, you'll notice I even have little notes down here. So I want to make sure that if you don't have this paper or you don't have the project here, I want to make sure that you go ahead and just grab a piece of paper so you can take some notes as we go through. When you think about a seam, so really a seam is just putting two pieces of fabric together. There are lots of different ways to make that seam. Most of us, what we do is we use a straight stitch and then we finish an edge. That's your most basic seam. But today we're going to do, we're going to do a flat felled seam. We're going to do what's called a French seam. So there are different ways depending upon the application, but let's get started with just the basic straight stitch and also how to edge, how to make sure you're finishing an edge. All right. So I'm going back here and I'm just going to move this out of the way. And with this, and I said I was going back here, it's probably going to be a little bit easier to see in a different way. But this is your basic seam for garment construction, for just really basic sort of sewing things, is you've got your nice seam on the outside like this, and on the back, you've got a 5/8" seam with a finished edge. So I'm going to flip a camera because I think it's going to be easier for you to see over here. So again, here's your seam. So I know I used white, so it's a little tricky to see maybe, but here's your front of your fabric, looks really nice. And then the back here, if you look at that, it's finished on the edge for any fabric that's going to be ravelly. And when I say ravelly, it's going to pull, those little pieces are going to pull on the edge. So it is going to be important that you do some sort of finish when you are working with this. So let's talk about that for just a moment. What we're going to do is, I know many of you have different, there are lots of people out there with different machines. And what I want to do is I want to just talk a little bit. One of the beautiful things about this particular Singer Heavy Duty, this is the 4452. It has a lot of different stitches. You can see kind of here how you've got a lot of different stitches. I'm going to zoom in even a little bit more. So I'm trying not to zoom too quickly today to make you guys woozy. But here with these stitches, you can see we've got a straight stitch. Then I've got kind of a blue stitch and a red stitch. And those, anytime you see the blue and the red on really any of our Singer machines like this, those are stretch stitches. we'll talk about that shortly. So don't worry, we'll talk about that shortly. What I want to do is I want to turn to a zigzag stitch. And Monet, I know you're kind of watching the chat. I think all of you probably understand what a zigzag stitch is. It just goes from left to right. So I'm just going to zoom in that a little bit more. Just goes from left to right. This was when you learn to sew. This is probably the first thing a sewing teacher will teach you is to use this stitch to finish off your edges. I'm going to use a different stitch today, of course, right? I got to show you something different. But this stitch, can you all see here? Okay. Can you see that it's got little dashed lines kind of on the zigzag? So this is a regular zigzag. This one has dashed lines on it. Those dashed lines, so now let's turn a little bit and then zoom out just slightly. Okay, here we go. I'm going to start with a regular zigzag stitch. And when I'm finishing an edge, you can kind of see I'm just allowing the edge of my fabric to go right along, not the far outside, but just underneath the toe of my presser foot. So y'all following me? You guys are doing okay with this? Because now when I start sewing, I'm going to have a wide stitch width. And what I'm going to sew all the way down. And then when I finish, hopefully you were able to see that. This is what happens to a regular zigzag stitch. Can you see? We call this tunneling. And what it did is because it's a wide stitch to help finish, take away the raveling, so the raveling doesn't happen, it pulls the fabric together. And if you've ever had that happen, you either have to make your stitch not quite as wide. So we would actually, I'm gonna see if I can do this without making you guys, I'm always afraid I'm gonna make you woozy. This is our stitch width, and we just take it to a smaller number. And the width itself, you'll make it less to stop it from tunneling. So to stop it from doing that. But I like, remember I mentioned about this other stitch, the stitch that has the extra little dashed lines in it. Let's go ahead and I'm going to zoom back in. And I want you to watch, if you can, watch the needle. So if you can see that, I think you'll be able to see this pretty well. I want you to watch the needle. If you can see, for every time it's going to the left and right, it's taking a couple little bitty stitches. Can you all see that? And I'm even going to make my stitch length a little closer together. Why that is so great is, check this out. Absolutely, oh, I say that. I always try to do my best. See how there's no tunneling. See how it's nice and flat and even. So you end up with something like that. So you have a nice finish without having that pulling and tunneling. So, and the width, so that's a great, I just saw someone come up and what we can do is I'm going to go ahead and the stitch length. So let's come over here. And I'm going to come out just a little, not in, out, just a little bit here. The stitch length. So how long the stitch was to get to this was a stitch length of 1. And then I saw someone ask about a stitch length of the width. How wide was it? And it was as wide as I could make it. So the width was 6 and the length was 1. So the width was 6 and the length was 1. And I also saw one of you asked about a different color thread. I'm sorry. I have a light blue thread. This is the only time I'm going to use white fabric. So I promise you that the next ones you'll be able to see a little better. I'm sorry about that. The white fabric, I guess, was a bad move for me. I apologize. But so I want to make sure, again, you're using that nice multiple zigzag stitch, that basically stitch that has the 3 steps in it for the zigzag. And then we're going to go to a straight stitch and use our stitch length at 2.5. So our stitch length of 2.5, straight stitch. And I'm going to come back here for just a minute, because what I want to also let you know is different seams, different things you do, you have different seam allowances, right? So for a regular garment, when you're making clothes, your seam allowance that most patterns will have is 5/8 inch. So it's a 5/8 inch seam allowance. Our machines have that on our throat plate, so you can have that guide. So 5/8 inch seam allowance for your regular stitch, or your regular garment construction, excuse me. Wow, my words are not coming. I'm sorry, guys. I'll try and be better. The 5/8 inch stitch, the 5/8 inch seam for a garment. For quilting, usually it's a 1/4 inch seam. So if you're taking a note, 5/8 inch for garments, that's what most patterns have. They will tell you differently if you need to, but for quilting, it's usually a 1/4 inch seam. So a little bit different seam allowances for those things. So that's how far the seam, when you talk about a seam allowance, that's how far it is from the edge of the fabric, all right? So let's go back to our machine here, and I'm gonna just do a straight stitch, and here's what I was talking about there for just a minute is right down here on the throat plate here, there are little lines. I don't know if I zoom in more, if you'll be able to see them. Let's see if we can see how close I can get without really messing up my camera. All right. So, and you might be able to see them more on this side. Can you see how there's little markings and little lines? And that's on both sides. So all I'm going to do now to get that great finish is I'm going to find the one that says 5/8 inch. So right here it says 5/8 inch. I'm going to set my presser foot down so the edge of my fabric is aligned with the 5/8 inch seam. And then I'm just going to sew my straight stitch. So when we're done with that, you've got your seam finish on the one. So there's the seam finish here, the seam itself, and then when you press it, you're going to get this beautiful finish like that. All right, so there's your beautiful finish. There's the seam, and on the outside, it looks just great like that. All right. So are there any questions? This is your basic seam. There's nothing, that's when you're really gonna make, your garments.
Someone did ask something.
Yeah,
They said, would you zigzag first, is the first question. And someone also asked, would you mind showing them how to set up a thread in a box?
okay, so the first question that Monet was asking, that someone asked, is I always do my seam finish first, right? So I do zigzag. I use that multiple zigzag. I do that first. It makes it a little bit easier rather than at the end where you have to like pull the seam. It's a little bit you know, when you're like this, it's a little bit harder to finish when it's already constructed. So I do like to do my seam finishing first. I'll go ahead and the bobbin as well as the threading, it is super easy. And so what I'll do is, I'm not going to take a lot of time with this. What I will say is we've had a couple classes actually that what we do is we do the seaming and we do the threading and all of that. So I'm not going to take a lot of time, but I do want to give you that, let you see how easy it is. So let's go back to our machine here. And with that being said, because I do have it threaded, I am going to go ahead and just clip my thread up here and pull my thread through the machine that way. And then also take my bobbin out. And so I'm just going to go ahead and just set my bobbin right there. So when you thread any machine, you want to make sure, again, you're using a good quality thread. And on the top here, so I'll just get a little bit wider. Just hopefully, well, that's as wide as I can go for our camera right now. But up here, there are some instructions. So I'm just going to follow my instructions. So there's a little number 3 here that has the arrow, 4 comes up, 5 around. So again, just following all the instructions. Number 6, every machine, almost every machine threads similarly, but there are differences. So again, you just want to follow your manual and get that ready to go. And then the last thing I'm going to do is I am going to use my little needle threader here. And I do like to, if you've ever struggled with a needle threader, I will put my presser foot down and then use my needle threader like that. And it actually pulls a little loop through the eye of the needle to make it super easy. When you're putting in a bobbin, you always want to make sure that the bobbin is going in the proper direction. Each machine, again, is a little bit different. So each machine is a little bit different. When I drop in the bobbin, so please read your manual, I guess is what I'm saying for that. When I drop in the bobbin, I want to make sure this is a drop-in bobbin. I'm sorry, I keep flipping that around right now. I'm going to make sure I put the thread in the bobbin tension. So whatever machine, again, you have, thread in the bobbin tension. And then I like to bring up my thread like that before I put my bobbin cover back on. So I know that was quick, but I think you guys, there are lots of good information out there on how to put in your bobbin and basically your threading for your particular machine. But I just followed all the instructions on the machine. Okay. So now we've done our straight stitch with the edging. And again, I do like to do my seam finishes first before I actually do the seam itself. On your piece of paper, that again, and that's what most of you are going to do. You like to do that. It's a basic seam. The next seam I do want to talk about though is it's actually a stretch seam, and on many machines they are called seam and overcast. If you would just put in the chat real quick for Monet and Amy to see, but how many of you have a machine that has what's called a seam and overcast? If you know that you have a machine, just put in a hand or say, I do, or something like that. Because a lot of times people don't understand why you would want to use a seam and overcast stitch to make your garment. Okay, so let's come back to our machine. And are we getting some I do's on that one, Monet?
Yeah.
So a lot of people, okay, that's great. So, and some of you may not know. So let's take a look I'm gonna come back, not sure. Okay, I see that. So let me explain what that means then. All right, so I'm gonna come back. And this is one of the beautiful things about this particular heavy duty machine is we used our straight stitch. We used our multiple zigzag stitch. If you see, can you all see like these two stitches right here? This red, and it's kind of a red color and a blue color. Those are seam and overcast stitches. I'm going to keep turning because this also over here are seam and overcast stitches. And what that is, okay, if you don't have them, again, you already know how to make a specific seam. What these stitches look like, there we go. I think you can see that a little bit better on the pink. I made the wrong choice of the blue thread on white fabric. But see how the stitch, it makes the seam and then it overcasts in one step. And that's what this did as well. There are two different types of stitches, just two different styles. Then after you make that seam, what you need to do is you need to come over here and then you can trim close like that. And now your seam is finished to the edge. It's not going to ravel. And you've got that great finish on the outside. So did that help? So those are the stitches that you want to look for. Okay. And I see someone said, I have it, I never use it. Well, you might change your mind because the other reason why this stitch is so great. So here's that same stitch, right? Here's that same stitch. But it's a stretch stitch. So this happens to be a knit fabric, right? A knit fabric that sometimes we're scared to work with. Well, check that out. That stitch, see how that stitch stretches with the stretch fabric. So on woven fabrics like this, you don't have to worry about the stretch. It's just a great finish. On knits, that's where these stitches are great. And they're called seam and overcast stitches. So they're seam and overcast stitches. And what they do is they finish and seam all in one step. Okay. So let's go.
Tony, we do have a question.
Yeah, please.
We have two. Somebody said, could you cut the fabric with pinking shears? And also, what's a typical width and length of a stitch?
Yeah. So I personally do not use pinking shears. So the question was, excuse me, I don't know if you guys heard that. I do not use pinking shears to finish because pinking shears, okay, so pinking shears, what happens with that is it still ravels. So I will always use like that multiple zigzag stitch or even a regular zigzag stitch over pinking shears, because pinking shears, it still ravels. It looks nice, but it can still ravel after the fact. So I personally don't. I know there are some people that still like to do that, but I don't like to do that. I would rather use the stitch. It's more secure. So and then again, for a straight stitch, the average straight stitch length is about 2.5. And that's the average straight stitch length. Every other stitch, it just kind of depends a little bit on your machine, right? So Monet, I think that was the question. What was an average stitch length? Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so average stitch length is about 2.5 on most of our machines. That's what you're going to see. Now, I am going to show you two different stitches for this, because this is not a woven, or this is not a stretch fabric. I still like using the seam and overcast because it's more secure. Okay, so even on woven fabric, I will use the seam and overcast. I'm going to give you one little I say hesitation, that's wrong, but a little tip. If you know that you're gonna have to take this out, if you like know that it's something that you're not real sure about, do not use this stitch because it takes a long time to take out. If you know, especially for kids garments, this is great because it's super secure and it's going to make sure that they won't rip out their seams. So this is a very secure stitch. All right. So with our seam and overcast here, there are two options, and the only way, it's super easy to change. If I want the picture of the blue, I choose S1, which is blue. If I want the picture that's red, I choose S2 that's red. It's that simple for setting this up. But I also am going to take my stitch width. This is our stitch width. That stitch width needs to be, I like that to be as wide as it can be. So I'm going to make it as wide as I can. So I took it all the way up to 6. So let me move over and just down a little bit. Yeah, so that's the beauty of the seam and overcast stitch. I see that, so can you use that to do it all at once? And that's what we're going to do. So yes, you are going to do that as I go forward. So I'm going to go back to my 5/8 inch. So remember, that is still the garment seam is 5/8 inch. So all in one step, I'm just going to put my presser foot down. And so it's actually on the left-hand side, it's making the seam. I'm going to do this fast. And when I'm done, instead of having that secondary step, the seam is here, the overcast is done. You can leave that excess if you want. You can certainly leave that excess, but I like to trim up close. And so the person who asked, can you do it all in one step? We just did. Isn't that great? I think that is so cool. So if you have not used a stitch like this, please try it out. See how easy it is to do that. And I also, again, I want to show you this on a knit, right? So I want to show you this on a knit. I just used this stitch that I just showed you. This happened to be the red stitch. It doesn't matter. Both of these are very nice stitches. You may have a couple. Some people will have a personal preference on one over the other. I really don't. They both work very well. But on a knit, so this, again, this is a stretchy fabric. So on a knit, this works very well. There is something that some machines have that I always hate moving the camera so much here, guys, but I do want to share this with you. On the top of my 4452, this particular machine, so this heavy duty machine has what is called presser foot pressure, and there's a little dial up here. What presser foot pressure is, it's how heavy the foot is holding your fabric. So it's either coming down super heavy or just kind of heavy, that sort of thing. What I want to do is you can adjust that if your fabric, so it really is all about the fabric. And it's if your fabric is not feeding well, you might take it a little bit less. Okay. All right. But here is the other stitch. Like I said, I really like this little stitch too. And I am going to trim that up. And so it has stretch, it's finished, and it's just a really super secure seam on this side. It's super secure. So I saw, I did see someone ask, do you use this on tops? Do you use this on trousers, pants, tops, bottoms, all sorts of things? You can use it on anything. You really can. The only thing that I hesitate, I want you to think about is, okay, I'm doing this on a pair of trousers. I want to make sure it fits first. I'm not going to do this until after I make sure it fits, right? So I want to make sure, because this is, once you get done, if you have to take it out, it is super secure, okay?
Someone did ask, does the overcast stitch only use one needle?
It does. So in this case, on our regular sewing machine, the overcast stitch does only use one needle, and it's actually moving back and forth. So that's where you're getting all of the, all the stitches is by the one needle moving back and forth. Okay. Any other questions, Monet?
Someone did ask you hold the fabric a little closer and show the finished stitch side by side.
Sure, of course. So let's do this. I'll get back here so you can see, hopefully see. If I get too close, I think it blurs it a little bit. So there we go. So that is the knit stitch. That's the one I use for the knits. There's the one that I used for the woven. They are truly interchangeable. Hopefully that helps. Can you see that okay? Hopefully you can see that a little better. So it's just personal preference which one you would use over the other. All right. Okay, so any other questions about that? Really, really great questions. All right. So, excuse me, I'm just going to come back for a minute because the person who asked the question, is it only using one needle? On our regular sewing machine, it is only going to use one needle. Now, I am going to show you very quickly a serger seam. The difference is the serger is going to use two needles and it's going to overcast. Now, everybody, this is a whole nother class, and we've done a couple different serger classes. So please go to the Michael's YouTube page and go to the Singer portion, because you will have Singer serger classes. And we've done some great overviews with the Singer sergers. And if you're thinking about a serger, this is something that's really very cool, because to the point, and I'm going to come back here because I think that's a really good thing here, is here are those two, again, there are seams. And remember, I did have to go back and trim that little edge, even though it's super secure. What the serger does, and what makes this different, and I'm going to try and hold all three of these together, is this green here. This is a serged seam. It actually has two needles, and also it finishes all the way around the edge, and it cuts at the same time. So that is very different. So I'm going to just do this. I'm going to zoom out for just a moment. Yeah, I see the person who said, oh, wow, I agree with you. I think this is really an oh, wow for me. It was a game changer for me. So with sergers, a little bit different animals. See how it looks a little bit smaller. It's a little bit squattier, it's not quite as wide. And it has two needles, and it has some stuff down here that are called loopers. And again, we're not going to have time today, but there are some really great classes on this. But this is what I want you all to see is, remember I mentioned we seamed, overcast, and cut with our sewing machine. Well, this is going to do all of that all in one step. So here we go. And what I'm doing is it's cutting off. It's cutting that little bit off, right? So making that seam, and I kind of threw it on the ground, cutting the edge all in one step. Oh my goodness gracious. And let's come back here. Again, I think this is a good way to show these up close and personal. So I'm going to zoom back up a little bit more. And then, so there's that really, really cool seam. So that is a serger. To me, that is an oh wow. And I think that is something that, you know, please take a look at those other videos, because again, we don't have time, but I felt like I would be remiss if I didn't like show you, here's your seam and overcast on your sewing machine, but this is what a serger does too. So any questions about that one, Monet?
Someone did have a question about the overcast.
Yeah,
stitch.
yeah.
They said you first use with the zigzag can or can't be used with knits.
So, oh, that's a great question. So the question was that first seam that we did. So I want to say this is what they're asking about, is this first seam that was the straight stitch and the zigzag over the edge. You can use that with knits. It is not the best seam for a knit though. The reason is this is not a stretch stitch. A straight stitch is not a stretch stitch. So if you do use it on a knit, when you like pull the shirt over your head, that straight stitch can pop. If you've ever had that happen, that's why, is because it's not a stretch stitch. So again, it is not recommended that you would use a straight stitch. I should have probably said no, but I hate saying no. So, but basically, this is not recommended for something that has stretch. That's where that seam and overcast is going to be a better stitch for you.
She did say she meant the pink fabric.
Oh, the pink fabric.
Mhm.
Oh, excuse me. Sorry. So, yeah. So yes. So excuse me. It is the pink. You can use these two. So there we go. We'll get back here so you can see them again. And I'm just going to zoom out just a little bit so you can see it. So it maybe isn't so fuzzy. But yeah, the pink fabric here, yes, you can use that one on knits. Excuse me. Either of these can be used on woven or knit. Either one. So use either one. They're interchangeable. One looks more like a triangle, the other is just straight. I like the look of the one on the purple better, but that's again personal preference. You can use either one. Great question. Thank you.
They said, is a needle for knits necessary?
So really good questions, everybody. Yes, I would say that what you're talking about probably is a ballpoint needle or a stretch needle. They're going to go around the fibers in a knit a little bit nicer. Universal needles are semi-ballpoint. We did, again, check out all the classes we have because we do have a needle class, but a ballpoint needle is great for knits. And so if you have the ability to change it, I would change it. Yeah. All right. So if I make a cotton shirt, I didn't see that last. So Monet, I'm going to let you look at that for a moment, and I am going to actually move on. Unless that question needs an answer from me.
Well, they asked, if I want to make a cotton shirt, first, do I zigzag around the fabric and then go to sew?
So after you cut out your pattern in a cotton, in your cotton fabric, yes, you're going to sew around all the edges first with your zigzag or with your multiple zigzag, and then you're going to put it together. That will help you so it doesn't unravel while you're creating the garment. Okay. All right, so the next technique that I want to talk about, this is actually a very special kind of technique. And so let me go here. And why I say this is a special technique. This is what is called a flat fell seam. And let me bring that up a little bit closer so you can see it. All right. This is what is called a flat fell seam. It's going to be better here. I learned today, I will tell you, I learned today that that last camera angle isn't really great. So this is right here. If you guys look here, can you kind of, it looks like what you see on a pair of jeans. Can you all see that? It looks like what you see on a pair of jeans. And what that means is, so let's zoom in just a little bit, is right here, you've got your 2 stitches on top. And then on the back, it's perfectly finished inside. All right, so it's perfectly finished inside. This is what is called a flat felled seam. And how we do that, and I had to make notes on my fabric here to make sure I'm going to show you this. I want you to see a little bit here how this works. So I'm going to use 2 different colors of fabric. The first thing we're going to do with those 2 fabrics is, so I've got my 2 pieces of fabric here. I am going to put the wrong side. So the non-pretty side of my fabrics are going to be facing one another. All right, see that? So I'm going to put the non-pretty side of the fabric so it's facing one another like that. You with me? And then we're going to go back on our machine. We're just going to go back to a straight stitch. So I'm just going to come down here. I think, again, most of you, I think all of you probably know how to get to a straight stitch on your machine. But the trick is with that straight stitch, what I want to make sure that you're doing is, again, someone asked earlier, you need a 2.5 stitch length. Okay, so you have 2.5 stitch length. And with that, well, that's really what you need, is 2.5 stitch length. All right. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to align these 2 pieces. Align these 2 pieces and then go to my 5/8 inch seam. Okay, so I've got my 5/8 inch seam. All right. So 2.5, it's actually millimeters of stitch. So the stitch itself, when it makes it, it's 2.5 millimeters, which is just average, and it's pretty standard on most sewing machines today. Is a 2.5 is your like average sewing of your stitch length. So that is a millimeter of stitch. Now see what I'm doing? I'm just doing my 5/8 inch seam. Okay, so I've got my 5/8 inch seam right here. But y'all can see I didn't finish anything, right? And the reason why I didn't finish is because we come back to this stitch here. Remember, that back is finished, it's encased. So what you're going to do is, I would take this to the iron, but I'm not going to do that today. All right, so I'm not going to do that today. If you iron this and press this open, then, so I think you guys, hopefully you all can see that's what it would look like if it's pressed. What we're going to end up doing is we're going to end up cutting one side. So cutting one side. So if you are doing 2 different colors, what is the color you want to see the most? So I'm going to actually sew on this. You'll be able to see it a little bit better. So then for the flat felt seam, I'm going to trim I think you guys can see I'm trimming the gold color. Okay, so I'm trimming the gold. So see how now that's really small. You can see how that's really small. And then I'm going to take this and fold around. So what I just did is I folded this around what I just trimmed. Okay, so I'm folding this around what I just trimmed. Like that. Whoop, like that. So here's my trim. And take this, I'm going to fold it around. And now what we're going to do is we're going to sew that down. This is extremely, so I'm just going to sew and I'm going to fold as I go along. I'm going to sew and fold. And when I sew and fold, I saw the question, why would I ever go to this much trouble? I'll tell you why I would in very specific cases. You are correct. I would not do this all the time. And I also have to tell you, I'm not sewing very straight today, so I hope you will forgive me for that. But there it is. So I folded this down nice and flat. The reason why I may choose to do this, okay? So the reason why I may choose to do this is really, let's say you want your front and your back has to be super secure. Let's say you're making a pennant for outside your house. You want everything to be encased so nothing will ravel, and it's going to look nice from both the front and the back. That is why you probably would do that. You could do it on a napkin if you're putting pieces together. That's a great idea if you were putting an edge on a napkin, or even let's say the bottom of a tablecloth where you're putting a pretty hem on the bottom of a tablecloth all the way around. So something like that. I would not use this for most garments, but sometimes, let's say you are making a pair of jeans and you want that look. This is, if you look at how your jeans are made and you see that double stitch, that is a true flat felled seam on a pair of jeans. So, it's just a technique that I think you can use in different places, super secure, and you're going to have a beautiful finish on the front and the back. So that's why I would do that. So good question though. It is a little bit more work, that's for sure. All right, so any questions about the flat felled? Because the last seam I'm going to show you, and I had a feeling, a serger really can't do a flat felled seam for that. Just because you can't encase that. So a serger would not be able to do that. You can finish an edge, but you can't actually get that over the top like that. So good question about a serger for that. I'm realizing, of course, we said seams and hems. Let's see if I can get to at least a blind hem today, but I want to show you one other. This is actually one of my favorite. It's a very specialized seam, just kind of like a flat fell seam. But the reason, I guess the reason why I like, of course I dropped this, when you start doing some real fancy fabrics, this is called a French seam. And the French seam is kind of like a flat felt seam, not quite, but kind of. The reason why I like this, let's go back here. This is when you're using some of these fabrics. Can you guys see how see-through this fabric is? Think about if you made like a jacket out of this, and it also is something that frays, right? So it's going to fray, and you're going to see the seam on the inside. Well, if you're looking at your serger seam, right? I think, oh, kind of, there we go. You can kind of see how you can see all the stitching. If you're using and taking the time to make something this pretty using fabrics like this, you don't want to see that. Look at that. This is what is called, and maybe you can see it if I put it under the light of the machine. This is a French seam. And what it did is it completely encases that back area. And it's a beautiful seam. You're not gonna, it's gonna be, for those of you who felt, oh, that's too much work, then this also maybe is a little too much work. But I love this. I love this, what this is. That I think it is really, really cool. So what I'm going to do, if you're taking notes, this is the one thing, the one time I will say this is pretty important to take a little note. We're going to put wrong sides. So if you have a right and a wrong side to your fabric, this one doesn't, but you would put wrong sides of your fabric together. And this time I'm going to use 3/8 inch as my seam allowance. So with a French seam, you're going to make a smaller seam allowance. So we're going to use a 3/8 inch seam. And with that 3/8 inch seam, it's just a marking right on my edge. And again, using the 2.5 stitch length, so same stitch length. All right, so same stitch length. And all I did was I just did a straight stitch and a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim. So again, we're trimming to about 1/4 inch. So pretty small seam allowance now. And now you're going to pull this all the way around. And all I'm going to do is finger press. Okay, so I'm going to finger press this. But when I finger press it, now I'm going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance for this. So I went from 3/8 to 1/4. And now what I just did is I encased that right along that edge. And now when you see the seam itself, see how nice that looks in there. So that looks really nice in there. So that, again, it's, for me, this is, again, something if you're using the organzas and the really fine, fine fabrics, it's a great way to finish that. So I like it too. I think it is a special seam, but again, something that I think is really nice. So any questions about that seam, Monet? Because I'm going to jump to hems for a minute. And what I really want to show you is about a blind hem. So no questions on that. All right. So what I want to do with the hems, I have a few just quick little examples here, but I think most of us know when you're working on a lot of things, it's just fine to have a just a straight stitch hem, right? So I did, check it out. Of course, I'm going to finish the edge. So again, it doesn't ravel. So it's better if you finish the edge so it doesn't ravel. Again, I did that. I would do that first on anything that I'm creating. I did want to show you though, a lot of us, we're used to our straight stitch for our hem with that straight stitch. Okay. So with that straight stitch, what you can do is I like to have my stitch length just a little bit longer. So remember, I've been saying 2.5, 2.5. This actually is basically a 3 millimeter hem. So it's a little bit 3 millimeters for the straight stitch, a little bit nicer. But if you look here, for any of you who do have those stretch stitches, right? If you have stretch stitches, then you can use this reinforced stretch stitch, and it's like you've went over it 3 times, so it's a lot bolder stitch. Okay, so a lot bolder stitch. So just your normal stitch there. The blind hem, okay, the blind hem is, it is something that you need to practice if you're going to do this, right? So you want to go ahead and practice. And the blind hem is all about the fold of the fabric. It's all about how you fold the fabric. So if I come back here, can you guys, I know you can see this, but you can't really see my stitching, and maybe on purpose in this case, I used a color of fabric or a color of thread that would kind of blend in. But basically what a blind hem does is, if I kind of pull this apart, can you see how every about 3/4 of an inch to an inch, it catches one side of the fabric? You see that? See how it's catching? So it just barely catches on those edges, you know, on that side of the fabric. That is what a blind hem is supposed to do. And then on this side, you really don't see, when you press this, you're never going to see that little edge. Okay, so you're never going to see those stitches, especially if you use a thread that looks similar to what you're sewing. So that being said, let's go ahead and we'll come here. Here is, so this is my pair of trousers. It's my skirt, whatever I'm doing. And this is the bottom of that garment, whatever it is, or curtains or whatever you're making. Again, see how I finished? It's already finished, so I do my finishing first. And then you're going to fold up and press in the hem. Okay, so you're going to press in the hem. That is the first step in doing your blind hem. Okay, so that's the first step in doing the blind hem. Let's come over here. I know I've got a very short amount of time left, but basically I want to zoom way in, and I'm doing this on purpose because I want you all to see right here. You can see this is what the blind hem stitch looks like. So it looks like a straight, it's the black one, right? So it's a straight stitch with a little zig in the middle of it. That is your blind hem. And the goal is for that little zig, zig of the zig and zag, the zig goes into the fold of your fabric, and that's what you see, or that's what you barely see. So, all right. Let's scoot over here. And I've got my fabric folded. So I've got my fabric folded here. Here's the trick. And you guys, this is recorded, so you can go back and look at this as many times as you need. Because what we're going to do is we're going to take the main part of our garment, our trouser, our pants, fold it back. And I'm going to expose, when I'm practicing, I expose where my stitching is, and that zig is going to go into this fold. Okay, so this is why you need to practice, and I will tell you guys, I practice every time I do this. So here, I want to make sure I have a good stitch width, my width higher, and then can you see the zig? Okay, hopefully you all can see the zigs. Sometimes some of my zigs were better than others, because now, there we are. There's that stitch on the finish, and when you open it up, check it out. You just barely catch in there. But you can see why I have to practice, because I have to know exactly where that zig is gonna go in. Isn't that great? That's that blind hem stitch. So with the blind hem, everybody, that's why it's called blind hem. I think it's neat. It takes practice, but once you get it, my sister came over and was visiting, and she wanted me to hem some pants, and I'm like, okay. And I went into my sewing room and got to my sewing machine, and she said, well, where's your hand needle? And I said, nope, we're doing it on the machine. So blind hem is great for that, everybody. That is just one type of hem. There are other types of hems. We just did a couple different ones. There are rolled hems, there are other things. So just realize that every fabric, every machine is a little bit different. You want to practice and try things and then see. I know some of you, the seams, maybe you were exposed to something that you had never thought of before. So again, those French seams, those flat felled seams, and even the finishing, how you finish your fabrics. So any other questions, Monet?
We do have two,
Okay.
questions. Somebody asked, did you use the blind hem on jeans? And also, what's the best, hem for stretchy fabric?
Okay, so the first question was about blind hem on jeans. Usually you're not going to see a blind hem on jeans just because you're wanting to see the stitching. So if you look at most jeans, and unless they're like a really like a real formal jean type, so you could use it. It's because of the thickness. Sometimes it's a little bit tricky to get the right bite, that zigzag to go in the right place. So it's if that's the look you want, yes, you can practice and press. Make sure that you have a good press to make sure that that's in the right spot, right? So you're getting to get that zig into the right place on your fabric. So yes, you can for jeans. And the second one, I'm sorry. Oh,
The best hem for stretchy.
oh, best hem for stretchy fabric. Yes. So one of the things I did not get to today, and I'm going to do this really fast, is this is a great hem for stretchy fabrics. And all it is using a twin needle. So if you can see, if it's okay to expose the seam like this, I used a twin needle. You can see it looks like a little zigzaggy on the back, but check it out. It has all the nice stretch because even though it's a straight stitch, because of how the twin needle works, I love a twin needle for stretchy fabrics. That's the one I would that would be like one of my best choices for that. All right, everybody, I know I went over a little bit. Thank you so much for joining us today. Again, I'm Sonny. I will be with you next week when we talk about presser feet. So one of the presser feet I was going to show you today was a rolled hem. So I'll try and work that in next week to make sure I can get that in for you next week. And then again, we're doing buttonholes, we're doing tips and techniques, troubleshooting as well. So again, thank you all for joining us. I hope you have a great rest of your day and a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you for National Sewing Month very shortly.
All righty, thanks everyone. Keep a lookout for these new classes coming up on the Michaels website, and check out our YouTube channel for past classes. And in 24 to 48 hours, you can review this class and catch up on anything you missed. Have a great rest of the week, guys.
Bye all.